I'm Ritual Neo. Welcome to my ARKit VTuber tutorial. In this tutorial, I will go over how to make all 52 face tracking ARKit blend shapes and how to set up a basic VRM VSeeFace avatar for VSeeFace. You will need the following: Blender 3.6 or newer. I use 4.3.2. If you use a different version of Blender, things may be different than in my tutorial. Unity Hub or VRChat Creator Companion with Unity 2019.4 and Unity 2022.3. You need these exact versions of Unity because I am going to show you how to bring a newer VRChat character from Unity 2022 that may use VRCFury to put outfits on into 2019 with the outfit on, saving you time. And Unity 2019 is required to make a working avatar for VSeeFace. It will not accept avatars from newer versions of Unity. You will also need UniVRM 0.99.2 and UniVRM 0.115. I will link all of this stuff specifically. You cannot use the newer version of VRM in the older version of Unity. It's all part of the process. Just trust and believe in the step-by-step guide I'm going to give you guys. If you are an experienced user and you have your own way of making a VRM, or you already know what VTuber program you want to use, you can skip the Unity part of my tutorial. Likewise, if you are an experienced Blender user, you probably know how to make blend shapes, so you can skim through that part and just focus on the Unity stuff for making your VRM or VSeeFace avatar for the first time. I highly recommend Gesture Manager, which is part of the VRChat Creator Companion, VRM Auto Shape Key Tool, which is free. This is a plugin for Blender. Shape Key Manager Pro, which is $5 on superhivemarket.com. Shape Keys Plus, which is free on GitHub. And Pumpkins Tools, which is free on GitHub. All of these things I use to make my workflow much easier working on face-tracked VRM avatars. Face Motion 3D is both a Blender plugin and a iOS app. It is the main iOS app that I use to do all my face tracking work, and it can plug directly to Blender, which allows you to test your faces in Blender without exporting to Unity. It's really good for working on your shapes before you go through all the pain of doing the VRM, etc., etc. Everything I've described I will link very carefully in the description. I will also be trying to create as many bookmarks and timestamps as possible for people who want to just revisit certain parts of this guide, or maybe some people who are more experienced, they just need to skip to the part they don't know how to do yet. Thank you so much for bearing with me. This is going to be an in-depth, comprehensive tutorial, but I'm going to try to go through it as cleanly as I can to make the best value of your time. And I can also show what I'm talking about in my web browser here. This is one of the references I use. This reference is actually a little better. It has the exact shape key names. When you make the shape keys, you must use these names exactly, including the case sensitivity. This is because some apps will pick up on these names for you, and it'll make the work easier later on. But I actually like to make them in the order of the mocapx.com guide. I start with the eyes and I go down. This is Face Motion 3D. It's a Blender plugin and a iOS app. You will need both. It is not free, sadly. You might be able to use iFacial mocap if you have it, but I will not be using iFacial mocap in this tutorial. I will be focusing with Face Motion 3D. It is not 100% necessary, but I highly recommend it. Here is Shape Keys Plus. It is free. You can get it on GitHub. Shape Key Manager Pro is optional, but it's $5 on Superhive Market. This is a tool made by Tracer755. I actually requested this tool to be made, and it'll help you save some time when setting up blend shape clips in Unity, which is a tedious task we will have to do towards the end of this tutorial. And obviously, this tutorial we're using VSeeFace. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's get started. Whenever I open up a blend file on a character, I like to do a few things. Number one, I like to make my own brand new layout. Start over, basically. I like to set it to texture mode, and I turn on the wireframe. Next, pretty much 99% of what we're going to do in here is going to be on the shape keys. So I like to make a new shape key, and I use my Shape Keys Plus to send it all the way to the bottom. This shape key doesn't actually do anything, it just helps me separate my work from the rest of the avatar. You can call this whatever you want, as long as it's nice and visible. Then we're gonna take a look at a couple things with the character. First of all, I want to see how the eyes move and how the jaw moves, if it has a jawbone or not. Some characters have a jawbone and you can use that to take shortcuts and make your blend shapes a lot faster. So since this character has a jawbone, later we can make a blend shape from pose with this jawbone, and it'll help us make a few of the blend shapes very quickly. Press Alt-R to reset the pose. I also want to see how the eyes move. Some characters, the eye bone will actually have some of the tissue of the eye socket also move. So you don't want to double move this stuff. When I do face tracking, unless it's an anime or a chibi style character or they have like discs for eyes, I usually let the bones do the eye tracking, and then I just add some blend shapes around the face a little bit to show that the face moves a little bit following the eye, since eyes are not usually perfectly round and your eye tissue moves a little bit wherever you look. Okay, we're gonna hide the armature for now, but I'll come back to it later. We're in object mode. Let's see if there's a blink we can use. Eyes closed. This character comes with a blink, so I'm just going to copy these blinks. Copy selected. Eye closed L.001, eye closed R.001. I'm just going to use this button to send them all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to uncheck. Make sure that when you're working on shape keys, you have them all set to 0. If you hit the X down here at the bottom right, it'll clear everything, and you're definitely for sure starting from scratch. So you got your 2 blinks here. Let's rename them. I will rename them just like on this guide here. We'll use this guide actually. Eye blink left. So don't follow this. It's not eye blink underscore left. It's I lowercase blink capital B left capital L. Eye blink left. And then you do the same thing for eye blink right. Next is eye look down. I'm gonna do eye look down left. I'm gonna go into edit mode, turn on shape key edit mode. It's a very small button on the bottom right here next to the X from earlier. This means that your shape keys will actually activate when you slide them on and off. Then, we need to make eye look down left. I like to hide everything I'm not working with, so let's open up the mouth. And since we're working primarily with the eye tissues, we can hide a lot of stuff that we don't want to move by accident. And I'll show you why I'm hiding them later instead of doing masking or setting the brushed auto mask. I'm using the L key to pick out the parts of the mouth I don't want to move. So teeth, generally speaking, unless you're working on a very fantastical character, don't move on their own. You just hide all that stuff. And eyeballs don't move either. Now one more thing I'm going to do is some characters, and your character may have hair. If your character has hair, you want to select the hair if the hair is part of the same mesh. And you want to separate the hair because sometimes when you mirror shape keys from the left to the right side, and we're going to do that later, it will cause errors or anomalies with your hair. So I like to separate this by selection, and then it'll appear under your character as body.001, assuming that the original mesh was called body. And then when we're all done, we will merge that back onto the character. But for now, since horns don't move, and usually when you're doing face expressions, the hair doesn't really move either, we're just gonna hide this and it'll be separate, so that way we won't accidentally cause an anomaly when we mirror shape keys. Now we can go to sculpt mode, turn off symmetry. I like to use the elastic grab and the elastic snake tool the most, and sometimes the grab tool. So a little bit of grab, I lower the strength, radius, whatever you want to do here. And these shapes are really subtle, but it's kind of a stylistic choice. Whenever you look down, the lens, or like the top of your eye, is actually a little bit bulbous. So it moves the tissue a little bit when you look down. Just give it like a little bit here. And if it helps, you can change the lighting to flat or to matte cap, and you can even set different matte caps. But I just like studio for this character. It kind of depends on if your character is too dark or not. And then you can kind of like look at it. Sometimes I look at it head on. I'm like, I just move it down a little bit. These shapes don't have to be very extreme. It kind of depends how extreme you want to go. I like just a little bit. Copy that. Rename it to I look down right. So you've got, it's double, right? It's double, but then we use Shape Key Manager Pro, set it to forced mirror active key, and make sure you're selected on the exact right key. Now Blender has its own shape key mirroring without plugins, but in my experience, it is not as robust, not as consistent as the Shape Key Manager's force mirror. And especially if you work on a lot of different furry avatars, you'll find a lot of them don't have perfect symmetry, and some of the mirror options may not work, or they might come through with anomalies. So my preferred way to mirror is with Shape Key Manager Pro, Forced Mirror Active Key. However, you can also mirror shapes with Shape Keys Plus. And that usually works fine, but on some characters, there may be an anomaly. So you have two options for mirroring there. And there are also options just without plugins, but in my experience, the plugin does the mirroring the best. Then we just go through the rest of the eye shapes. So eye, look in, left. So this is the eye looking inward. This part of the eye here, the inside of the eye, doesn't usually move very much in real life. But if you're working on a fantasy character or a cartoon, you can make it move as much as you want. Just to keep in mind that the amount of movement you make in the blend shape is the maximum amount of movement you're going to get with most VTuber apps. Most of the time, they will not overdrive a shape past 100% or 1.0 in Blender. Well, we could just move it a little bit inward, maybe a little outward like this, and then the whole eye can kind of come through, the whole eye socket can kind of come inward a little bit. It doesn't have to be big, it could be really subtle. Sometimes these subtle movements, they add up. Remember, there are 52 shape keys and they all work on top of each other, so the movement adds up. Then we copy it, rename it, and we're gonna reverse it. Mirror active key. And then hit X. I forgot that I had the jaw open, but that's okay. Next is I look outward. I look out left, and this is the opposite of the last shape. Now, the reason I opted to hide parts of the mesh instead of using auto mask, you could use auto masking topology, but sometimes characters have facial features which are not part of the topology. So like the eyeball thing here is not part of the same topology, which means that their movement isn't gonna match the mesh exactly. But but it is still part of the character's face, so I still want it to move. So like often with like eyebrows, if this character had eyebrows and stuff, I wouldn't want to auto mask the eyebrows. But when I hide things, it's kind of like another way of doing masking. So that's why I opted to hide the eyeballs and the teeth and the gums of the character while I am working on this part of the face. But you may want to use auto masking for some situations. Just keep in mind, you don't want to accidentally move the teeth, or if you use auto masking, you may accidentally not move a part of the character's face that you wanted to move with the rest of the face tissue. Anyways, I look out left a little bit. Doesn't have to be big. In fact, that might be too much movement. If you make something that's like a little too much movement, I'll show you a trick. You can make a copy. Set the power a little lower, and then use new shape from mix. And now you've got a more conservative version of the same thing. And then that one is more satisfying, right? So you can copy it and reverse it. Next is I look up. I look up and I look down in terms of these eye shapes are actually the ones you want to give the most movement. It is more obvious with the eye tissue around your face when your eyes move up and down as opposed to left and right. But that's also an artistic, stylistic choice. You know, it's not like a technical truth of Blender. Like that's a lot of movement, in my opinion, for this shape. Copy. And reverse. Next is squint and eye wide. Now squint is where things get a little tricky. Squint is going to be one of the more challenging shapes you're going to have to do. Especially if you have an unusually shaped eyeball. So sometimes what I do is I will try the shape a little bit, and then I will hit Alt-H to see how my squint is lining up with the face. And see like that, something's peeking through there. Then I'll hit Control-Z so I re-hide easily. And then I'll go back a little bit. Because with this guy, the eyes are so big that really the squint needs to come out a little bit. Sometimes I use the smooth tool, but I don't want to go too crazy, so I'm going to use a very light version of the smooth tool where by switching the deformation to surface. You can use Shift to use the smooth tool even if you're on a different brush. So right now I'm on the elastic grab tool and I use Shift to smooth. Zooming out is also a fast way to get a bigger brush. That's pretty good, but I kind of want to do a little more. So right there, I just used Control-Z to re-hide after unhiding with Alt-H. That way, I can get the same hide combination I had before without going back and forth between edit and sculpt mode. Now, one of the reasons that squint is tricky is that it often overlaps with blink and smile, and also cheek squint. All of those blend shapes kind of drive similar parts of the face in a similar direction. So you have to be careful later on, especially when we get to testing. You might have to nerf those shapes or tweak them a little bit to be considerate of each other. If you are an advanced Unity user, you can make corrective shape key animations, which will mean that when you're blinking, it'll limit how much you can squint and other situations like that, but I'm not going to go over that with this tutorial. I prefer to just make the squint and the blink kind of conservative in case the blink is happening at the same time. But I wanted to make people aware of that possibility. Some people use a corrective additional shape key that comes on in case you are already blinking or squinting, for example. Now this is actually a pretty extreme squint. I'm gonna show you guys another trick. Because I like this part of the squint, but I don't like this part. So I'm going to hit the plus button here. And then we're gonna go to edit mode. And I'm gonna switch to face mode. I'm gonna choose I'm gonna use control, and I'm gonna click all around here. And I'm gonna click this with L. I'm gonna hit control plus a few times. I'm gonna shift, drag, click here, just get like nice big area. Maybe control, no, shift single click here, yeah. Then I'm gonna hit control V, blend from shape. Squint. And let's see how that looks. Okay, then I'm gonna go back to sculpt mode. And I'm gonna smooth here. Now remember, I have it on surface mode, so my smooth is much more relaxed. If you're on the default smooth, it will destroy this. All right, that's pretty good. The next thing I'm gonna do, actually, hold on, undo a little bit. I want to hide the eyeball again. We're gonna rehide the eyeball. Sometimes the smooth, remember, we don't have auto masking on, so we have to be careful with the smooth. If you hit L on the main mesh, and then on the other parts you actually want to edit, you can hit Control I to invert the selection, and then hit H to hide. That's a fast way of hiding the mouth bits. We don't want to move by accident. Then let's go back to sculpt mode one more time. Gonna turn this to like 700-ish, and I'm going to new shape from mix. I accidentally made an extra shape key there. That was a misinput. There's my squint. Okay. Hit X. That's pretty good. I think I want to smooth it a little bit more here. Remember that on my smooth tool, I am on surface mode, so it's very low power smoothing. Then we get rid of the old shape keys. I squint left. And that's pretty good. Usually squint and blink will not completely both drive at the same time. But you want to be mindful of the possibility of squint, blink, and smile being partially driven sometimes. And when we get through all the blend shapes, I'm going to use Face Motion 3D to test it live inside of Blender so that we can make fixes before bringing it into Unity. All right, and then just mirror. Now, eye wide is actually a lot easier. Eye wide, left and right can double jive with eyebrow outer left and right and some other expressions, but you don't need to worry about it as much usually. Kind of depends on how big the eyes are underneath the character. You don't want it to go so far that people can see around or past the eyeball inside the head, because that would be creepy. But eye wide is basically just making the eyes wide. There is a way to do this with edit mode instead of sculpting. Here's me doing it with the sculpt mode. I'm just kind of widening. That's pretty good. I'll show you an alternative method that might not look as good, but if you like edit mode better, you might like this method. I'll do the same thing in edit mode. Gonna go, make sure you have proportional editing on and not connected only. And then go to scale. Sometimes, oh, make sure the blend shape is actually on. Oops. Yeah, when you're in editing, make sure you actually have the shape key set to 1.0. And then you can just use the scroll wheel to change the area of effect. And then you can, in scale mode, you can grab any zone inside the white area while looking at it orthographically. And you can scale it up and down. And that'll also work. I might suggest a combination of these, like maybe scaling it big in edit mode, and then you can go back in sculpt mode and smooth it out. Now this is a much more dramatic eye wide than the eye wide I made in sculpt mode. Alt H to unhide, and you can see like, oh my god, this eye wide is massive. I think I'm gonna go with my sculpt mode one, except I'm actually gonna turn it down a little bit. So I made a new version using the shape from Mix. Eye wide left. A little nerfed, but that's like perfect. That's probably about as much eye wide as I'll ever need. Copy it. Mirror. And of course rename it. Now remember, these names are case sensitive and they must be exactly correct. You don't have to do it the way I do it, but if you do it this way with the names exactly correct and the cases, it'll save you some time when trying to match up these blend shapes with certain plugins and apps later, including Face Motion 3D. This is also what separates the ARKit shapes from other kinds of shapes, like unified expressions have different names with different cases. So if you are making a character and you want to have a set of unified expressions and ARKit, you will need to get the case exactly right so that the names can be different, because otherwise, if you ignored the cases, the unified expression shape keys would have some shape keys with the same effective name as the ARKit ones. That's one of the reasons why the casing is important. So lowercase e, uppercase W, uppercase L, for example. Whew, and with that, we're basically done with the eyes, and we can move on to the jaw. I'm going to show a couple different techniques for editing the jaw. Luckily, this character has a jawbone, so I can show you how to make a shape key from the armature. Let me just double check that everything is going in order here. So I go in the order of this. We did all these eye shapes. Now it's time to make jaw forward, jaw right, jaw left, and jaw open. And we also have to make mouth closed. Mouth closed is a little tricky, but I'll show you guys how to do it. So, first of all, we don't actually need this key 110. I made it out of habit using the plus button, but we don't need it. But before that, I'm actually going to save my work. We'll call this Milstrorka Whip ARKit. I make a lot of these. All the time. So many. We can minus that. Remember how we hid the armature? We're going to unhide the armature. It's up here in the hierarchy. For you, it's probably called armature, but some characters, you might have a strange name for your armature. I recommend that your avatars have armature with a capital A as the name, and then their main mesh as body with a capital B, but there's a chance that somebody out there has a strange character with different names. Anyways, turn the armature back on, and go to it in object mode. I recommend setting the armature as in front. You can use stick mode or octahedral mode, it doesn't matter. Or you can have custom shapes, whatever. The point is that you can find the jawbone and then go to pose mode. I recommend doing this after using the preset viewpoint so you get it absolutely correct. Grab the jawbone and then use G to move it into position for jaw forward. Now, if we literally moved it only forward, it would look kind of strange for this character, so I'm gonna move it down and forward a little bit, like this. Then just left click, and you can confirm kind of what it looks like by looking at it from the front. You want this to be symmetrical. Go back to object mode, select the character, go to modifiers, then go to save as shape key. Do not apply and do not apply as shape key. Save as shape key will make a new shape key. That's what you want. Then we go to shape keys and we scroll all the way to the bottom. There will be a new one called armature. This is the jaw forward. Now, right now, the shape key is double driving with our pose. So let's go back to the armature, pose, press Alt-G to reset the location of the jaw. Now, the shape key is the only thing moving the jaw forward. We're gonna call this jaw forward. Mind-blowing, I know. Now we're gonna do the rest. We're gonna do the same thing with a few more jaw shapes. So turn off all shape keys. Go to pose mode. We need jaw left and jaw open. That was me moving the head by mistake. I am choosing the jaw right now, and I'm gonna press R. You might have to hit R and then R again to kind of really move it the way you want. Or you might want to try R and then Z. It kind of depends on the axis and the orientation of the bone. But if you hit R and then Z, you move it along this axis. If you hit R and then Y, you'll move it along a different axis. R and then X moves it along another axis. For the male Storka, I'm hitting R and then Z, but your character's bones might be oriented in a different way. So I'm gonna hit R and then Z and then move it like this. And then I will also use G and then Z. Or no, actually, I'm gonna use G and then X to move it to slide the jaw. Then we're gonna go back to the character. I'm gonna go to modifiers and save as shape key. And then, look, another one. Wowie zowie. Okay, we have to pose the jaw one more time. So I'm gonna hit Alt-G and Alt-R. Alt-R resets the rotation, and Alt-G resets its location. We have to make jaw open. Now, many times I actually copy the AA viseme or the A viseme to do jaw open, but you can also pose the jaw open. So I will show all three ways that I would make jaw open. Even though I don't have to do it for this character, for the tutorial, I will show you several different ways to do this. Pretty much just pose it as much as you want. You can also move the jaw lower, but I don't recommend dragging it. So like jaw open could be like this. That's pretty good. Now keep in mind that when you're making jaw open, if you run your VTuber software with hybrid lip sync, which means the lip sync is on top of the face tracking, anytime you make the ah sound or the A sound or something similar, there's a chance that jaw open and the AA viseme will double jive with each other, which will look something like this. So just keep in mind when you're making these blend shapes, and you can nerf that value in the blend shape clip in Unity later, or you can use other tricks to hamper this, but just keep in mind that possibility. Go to modifier, save as shape key. Now we have 2 armature shape keys. I'm gonna reset the pose. And we don't need the armature anymore. We can hide it again. Now this one was jaw left, and you might be saying, but Neo, we only made a jaw left. Don't you need a jaw right? Well, luckily, we can copy this and then mirror it. There we go. Now that's our jaw right. Jaw right and jaw left. And here's jaw open. If you don't have the bone to do the jaw open, you can copy the AA viseme of many characters and just make that a jaw open. So to do that would be really easy. There is an AA viseme right here. You'll notice it looks almost exactly the same as the posed jaw open that I just made. It might even be a little cleaner. Just hit the copy button, move it to the bottom, get rid of the old jaw open I made from the armature, rename this jaw open, lowercase j, uppercase O. Perfect. That actually looks a little nicer anyways, probably because they sculpted some of this movement by hand. Now, if you do not have an AA viseme and you do not have bones to pose the jaw, you still need to make jaw blend shapes, and there are many characters that will not have a jawbone for you to pose. So I'm going to show you a method to blend shape the jaw in a place for all these different blend shapes in case you don't have a bone to do it with. This is extra work. You don't need to do this if you have an armature to make this shapes from. But many characters may not have bones for their jaw. So I'm going to show you guys what I would do in that situation. Go to edit mode. We'll need to be able to choose some of the things inside of the mouth. So I am going to open the jaw, but you could do it by just zooming in or whatever. We need to hide the eyeballs. We don't want to move the eyeballs by accident in this case. Anything you don't want to move, you want to hide. We're going to turn off we're going to turn on proportional editing, but we're going to set it to connected only in edit mode. Select the tongue and the bottom, if there are gums, the bottom row of gums and all of the bottom teeth. Now, this will be a little bit more tedious than doing it the armature way. Then you can hit X and close your shape as long as you got that stuff selected. We're going to select an array of faces on the jaw, which you don't have to do it exactly like mine, but the point is to get the general area that you're going to move. This is probably good. So what we've done is we've selected the jaw, and the tongue and the mouth, but we also need to choose some parts inside the jaw, which is going to be tricky because the tongue is in the way. Luckily, you can just zoom in and get close. That's probably good enough. All right, make sure it is set to connected only for this part. Otherwise, you'll move the top of the mouth, and you don't want to do that. That doesn't make sense. The teeth will be moved by mistake. The top of your mouth will be moved by mistake. Most characters, when their jaw is moving, the top part of your mouth does not move on its own. Make sure you have a new shape key. Now keep in mind, when you are in edit mode, you cannot make new shape keys. So if you need to make a new empty shape key, go back to object mode or sculpt mode and hit the plus button. In this case, I happen to have 2. Make sure you're turned it up. Go back to edit mode. We're going to make jaw open and jaw forward and jaw left like this. So actually, I need one more shape key. All right, and set this to 100 or 1.0. Just move it down. You can grab the square, and you can, if you want more influence, you can use the scroll wheel. You can also use the R key to rotate things. I don't recommend rotating anything for jaw forward though. Just drag it down. Keep the selection the same. Try not to lose your selection. If you accidentally misclick, you can hit Control Z to get your selection back. For jaw forward, we might want to rotate. Jaw left. This one might be easier if you use the actual rotate tool instead of hitting R, because you can get a disc that appears. Grab the disc, start moving it, and then use hold shift to make the movement much finer relative to your mouse. Notice the screencast is not capturing in my movements as much, but I'm describing everything I'm doing, so it's probably fine. Hit Control Z there. Now, I did these pretty quick. This is more tedious than using the armature to pose for your jaw shapes, but you could edit these. The point is to be very careful about where you're selecting and to use proportional editing with connected only. But with this method, you could make some pretty good jaw shapes. It just takes more time. You might have to smooth some things out with the sculpt tool. But yeah, I did that just to demonstrate. I'm gonna delete those because I like the original jaw shapes I made more. You can use that method if you don't have any jawbones. This character has so many blend shapes, I have to do a lot of scrolling. You're gonna have to do, even with shape keys managers and plugins, you're gonna have to do a lot of scrolling for shape keys. Alright, so we're back to jaw open, and I've got one of the more complicated shapes to make now called mouth close. You may notice this looks really strange in this picture. That's because this is what the shape looks like if you use it by itself. It's meant to work on top of jaw open at the same time. So, turn on your jaw open blend shape and make sure you're selected on the mouth closed blend shape while it is also on. You're also going to want to hide all the teeth. Hit Shift L to unselect the body mesh and leave the teeth and tongue selected. Hit L to select the rest of the teeth and the gums and hide them. Hit H to hide. Now for this part, I will actually use the masking in sculpt mode. It's easier to see the mask. If you have a dark character, you might want to turn the texture off by setting it to random, because then it's easier to see the mask. To mask, I Control Shift right click. You're going to want to mask a small amount of under the chin here. And actually, for this shape, because we're going to be working so much around the bottom of the mouth, you may want to hide everything below the neck. So make the character transparent And just select everything below the neck. And hide it. We'll make sure that it's smooth later. Turn off the transparency. It's called X-ray. Toggle X-ray, Alt-Z. Turn on jaw open and mouth close. Make sure you select it on mouth close. Go back to sculpt mode. Right now, I have this part masked, and I'm gonna mask also the bottom of the mouth. And you'll see why. It's because when you're sculpting, you don't want to lose the volume that would be in the bottom of the jaw. So obviously the bottom of your jaw is a hard bone, which means that if you're pulling up on the lips, it can't make your jaw vanish. That wouldn't make sense. So I'm sculpting the bottom of the jaw down here, or I'm masking the bottom of the jaw down here. Now open the mouth, make sure you're on mouth close. And also you want to be on symmetry mode for this one. And keep in mind that if you make a mistake and you Control Z, undo, it'll undo whether or not you chose to be in symmetry mode or vice versa. So just keep that in mind. It is a snag that can happen to you in Blender, or at least it can happen to me. You can confirm that you're in symmetry mode because you'll see another dot that corresponds to your cursor. There'll be 2 dots. And then when you move, it'll look like this. Then hit Control Z. Make sure you're still in symmetry mode after being in Control Z. Now we just bring the lips together. This is kind of like if you tried to open your jaw all the way and also kept your lips closed. And it's gonna look kind of silly at first, but we'll smooth it out afterward. Usually you want to give more volume to the top lips rather than the bottom lips, so hit Control I to reverse the mask. And you might actually want to mask around the eyes a little bit, especially if the eyes are close to the mouth. There is a masking brush you can use on the far right side here in my version of Blender. It might be somewhere else for you. That'll help us a little bit. You don't want to move the eye sockets too much with the mouth, especially if you have a character with huge eye sockets that are near the mouth, like in this character. The top of the nose is usually another place that I mask, so that it doesn't move as much. And keep in mind, this may look kind of ugly at first, but the more we work on it, the more smoother it gets. However, even in real life, this is a very silly face to make. Trying to open your jaw all the way with your lips closed, well, it just doesn't look elegant. So keep that in mind and just do your best. But usually there's more material to work with on the top half of the mouth rather than the bottom half. There we go. It's kind of like when your dog is hiding something in their mouth. What have you got there? Oops. And then with this shape in particular, and many of the mouth shapes, you want to make sure that the teeth and gums are not poking through. So you can hit Alt-H, and you'll notice that actually the teeth and gums are poking through. Now, you can cheat and smooth them until they go away like this. But I don't really like doing that. It's not as elegant. So the proper way is actually hit Control Z to re-hide them. I'm gonna hit Control I to reverse my mask. And I'm going to just make my mouth more full down there, because that's what would really happen in real life. When you're moving your mouth, it goes around your teeth, your gums, and your jaw. It doesn't go through them. Then you Alt-H to make sure it's not poking through again. And you just keep working on the face. Make whatever you believe is believable. Make it, it could be silly or believable, but nothing should be poking through, even if you're making a toony character. Because having your teeth poke through your mouth is just kind of gross. I might switch my smooth style from surface to laplation. We can turn down the strength a little bit. I'm gonna hit Alt-M to remove my mask. Hit Alt-H to make sure the teeth are not poking through. The corners of the cheek of the mouth is a troublesome area. I'm just smoothing it out until it looks good. This is one of the more complicated shapes to do on the character, so if you can get good at this part, you can do any part. And you want to be mindful of any quads that are getting stretched a lot, especially if they're making pointy angles, because that'll make the texture look a little distorted on the character as well. Alright, now that we got the mouth mostly looking kind of smoothish, we can kind of dress up the movement of the face a little bit. Remask the bottom half. Turn the blend shape back on. We can drag the face down a little bit. Just a little. Give it that a little extra personality. When you make big emotions, it pulls the tissue of your whole face in different directions. There. Hit Alt-H to make sure nothing is poking through. Looks good to me. And this is what it'll look like if you have the jaw open and the mouth closed at the same time. The bigger your character's mouth and the bigger you make the jaw open, the harder this shape combination will be. So sometimes if you have a canine character and they open their mouth really big, you're gonna have to make a, well, frankly, it'll be a very silly looking shape. If you've ever looked at a dog eat food, they can't really chew with their mouth closed. They can't really do that. So just keep that in mind when you're working on a stylistic or fantasy character. A human being can open their jaw and then also seal their lips at the same time. Some creatures might not be able to do that. So you have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about how big your jaw open is going to be, how big your character's mouth is going to be, and how silly this shape might be as a consequence of those things. Just something to think about. But that's it. Now, mouth closed is going to look very silly if you turn it on without jaw open, but it's pretty much supposed to do that. In the software, mouth close will never trigger without jaw open on. In theory. Whew, I'm gonna save my work so far. Okay, next is lip movements. For the lip movements, we're going to be using the masking tools and switching between the top and the bottom of the mouth often with Control-I. We're also going to be needing to bring the jaw open while we work on it, and we're probably going to want to hide the teeth and the tongue and the eyes again. So let's go to edit mode. We'll turn on the texture. We'll just hit, let's hit our main mesh here, and then hit Control-I and hit H. Then we'll go back to sculpt mode. I've already got one new shape key here. And our first blend shape is going to be mouth funnel. Now, mouth funnel and mouth pucker are a little similar, but basically, mouth funnel, the lips curl out, whereas in mouth pucker, the lips kind of push together. Lowercase m, capital F. I'm realizing the color of the character still makes the mask hard to see. We'll just do it like this. I'm in symmetry mode for this one. This is kind of like making a pog face. Make a poggers. I'm using the snake tool right now because I like it better. I think there was a long time where I avoided the use of the snake tool because I thought it was weird, but nowadays I realize how powerful the snake tool is. If you are really good at it, you can make the shapes you need very quickly. Right here, I'm going to use the inflation tool. We're going to inflate the furry just a little bit on their mouth. Because it's getting a little tight there. Now, when you're moving the lips, you want to be careful that the gums don't become overexposed. And it's possible that if you have really shallow teeth or really shallow gums, that the gums will have to be edited to go higher up into the mouth. So we're actually going to do that right now because I barely pogged here. And our gums, the top of our gums, the top blank part of our gums is already visible. So we're going to go to edit mode, and I'm going to go to the basis. And if you want to be careful, you can do this on a new blend shape instead of editing the basis. But since I'm confident in what I'm doing, I'm going to edit the basis. I'm going to go to edge select mode. And I'm gonna select pretty much out to here. And we're just gonna bring this up a little bit. I'm gonna make the circle really small for proportional editing using the scroll wheel. And I mostly want to make it so that the gums do not appear during lip movements. So like this, now the top of the gums, it remains hidden. Okay, let's go back to our funnel shape. I'm not done with it yet. I'm gonna go back to sculpt mode. And back to the snake tool. Oh, hold on. I have to hide L, Control I, H. Sculpt mode again. I don't want to move the teeth by mistake. You could use auto masking, but that wouldn't be quite right. Shift L, H. There we go. That's everything I want to move. Sometimes I'm using Shift to smooth things very, very slightly. Control I to swap the mask. Whenever you move the bottom lips up, this is an opportunity to move the whole nose a little bit to give yourself a little extra character and a little extra expression. It's really cute for a character's nose to move when they're talking. Okay, and if that funnel is too extreme, we can also reduce it. Like maybe I'll run it at like 85%, and then we'll make a shape from mix. Delete the old one. Mouth. Funnel. And then double check the teeth again. Notice the top of the gums is not completely exposed. Usually when you funnel, some of the mouth jaw will open. So it'll be kind of like this, but the top doesn't move at all in this character, so you have to be careful. Control Z to rehide, because I used Alt H to unhide, Control Z to undo the Alt H. Let's make pucker next. Mouth pucker. For this one, we can use elastic grab. This one, the mouth only comes open a little bit. It's more that you're pushing the lips together. You can still move the nose up a little bit. That'll make it more cute. And you can bring the lips forward a small amount. If you want to, you can use the snake tool to kind of bend things forward. You could do this with edit mode also. And since we have some movement here, I'm just going to add a little bit of the inflation tool. Just a little inflation as a treat. In another tutorial I am making later, there will be a lot of the inflation tool. Alright, perfect. A little kissy face. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Just a little kissy. Just a little one, a fishy kissy. Since this is a fish creature. For the next shape, we're going to turn off symmetry mode. This is mouth left. Make sure symmetry mode is off. You can clear your mask with Alt M. And let's grab the elastic grab tool for this one. Mouth left is kind of like the whole mouth is shifting to one side. So we're going to grab all of it and move it around the perimeter of the face with a few mouse pulls. And if you want to, you can do it on the nose too to make the nose move. In my opinion, making the nose move is a fun thing you can do with face tracking, but you don't have to. It kind of depends on your character and your style and what you're going for. But the whole mouth will shift to one side a little bit. And it can even come up a little bit here, like a little smile if you want to. And then hit Alt H to make sure the teeth aren't poking through. Control Z. Copy this blend shape and reverse it with force mirror. Then hit X. Rename this to mouth right. And we now have the beginning of our mouth shapes. Next is mouth smile. Mouth smile left. Now, smile can be kind of a big matter of taste and of artistic preference. And sometimes you can copy a smile that a character already has and just use edit mode to divide the smile into two blend shapes by creating two blend shapes and then using Control V in edit mode with the selected faces and doing copy from shape. But I usually like to make my own smiles from scratch. And keep in mind that after smile and frown is another shape called dimple that will add to any smiles that you make with the character with face tracking on. So we can curve up the mouth a little bit at the end here with the snake tool. Maybe do a little smoothing. And then I like to take the elastic tool and move it all up. We gotta give them a big cheesy smile. The whole mouth moves up a little bit, but it mostly pulls at the corners. Apologies if you can hear my birds in the background. They're having a super duper fun time making all kinds of happy noises at the moment. They got a lot of playtime today because we had some people over. That's pretty good, but we can smooth it out a little bit. And just like with some of the other shapes, I'm like moving the nose a little bit. Just dragging up here. When you have a really big emotion like a smile, it pulls on almost the whole face. And then I remove the pointy parts of all the lines here with the smoothing. I press Shift to smooth. Alt H, because you can see that we lost volume here. So I'm gonna hit Control Z, and I'm just gonna pull that part out of the face a little bit. Oh, that's better. If you use the smooth tool in Laplacian mode, you will lose volume. There we go. So now the teeth are not poking through. I have a feeling that when we combine some of these blend shapes together, the teeth may poke through, so we might have to do some more edits. Let's copy the previous shape. Yeah, extreme smile. Now we're going to reverse it. And we should have a nice smile on both sides. You can see what that looks like by using the preset viewpoints. Fantastic. Now you might not want to make your smile as toony as this. The smile this model comes with is a little bit more conservative, I think. Let me see if we can find it. Big smile. That smile includes jaw open. You could do like a small smile. Oh, it's a little similar. So the smile, the exact appearance of the maximum smile that you want is up to you. I like to give myself a big smile because I want the character to be extra expressive, and I'm not going to have that big of a smile all the time. So that's just as big as the smile can possibly be. Next, we have to do frown. Now, something that you need to know about frowning is that it's actually kind of tough to do an extreme frown. So you have to, some people have to work very hard to really give a really big frown. So usually when I do commissions, I make the frown pretty extreme because some people have, this may sound weird, but they have a hard time doing a really serious frown. But this can vary from person to person, but in my experience, it's harder to give a serious frown than it is to give a serious smile. Luckily, frowning in 3D is easy, since it comes from the soul. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Just summon your most saddest feelings, or maybe that feeling you get when you play a horror game that's kind of corny. Or that feeling when you go to Wendy's and before they even finish taking your order, they interrupt you and tell you that the Frosty machine is broken. That's the emotion I am drawing out of my soul right now. That actually happened to me. I went to my local Wendy's one time and I said, yeah, can I have a number blah blah blah, and can you sub the drink for it? And then he interrupted me. He said, the chocolate Frosty machine is broken. We're out of chocolate. And I was like, that's not even what I was gonna say. Why would you presume that I wanted a chocolate Frosty? So that's the emotion I'm relying on right now when I make this face. It's what I call upon, what I summon to this medium, to my palette. Anyways, might smooth the corner here a little bit. The male Storka has a big mouth, so I have a big mouth to work with here. Maybe I should leave the personal anecdotes out of the tutorials. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. When you're frowning, you can drag down on the whole face just a little bit. It helps deliver the frown a little more. Trying to drag things a little bit lower. I'm gonna shape from mix because the frown was a little too powerful, but I like the shape. Yeah, there we go. Maybe we could bring it down a little more. I switched the smooth tool to Laplacian mode. It's getting kind of pokey out here. Alright, I'm going to get rid of the old mouth frown shape. And we're going to copy this one. I have to do a lot of scrolling here. Mouth frown, right? Ah, there we go. And now we've got a pretty sad frown. This is kind of like if somebody told you a little bit, told you about something that was a little too personal and kind of uncomfortable, you could make this face. Or maybe when your mom is late to pick you up from school, this face also fits. Or maybe when the Nintendo Switch 2 is sold out at GameStop. Many situations. Next is dimple. Dimple is a really small, subtle shape that adds to the smile. You're basically taking the corner of the mouth and tilting it and turning it. You're rotating it up and you're pressing it inward. This picture doesn't show it very well. Let's see if we can find it on the other picture. Yeah, it's like a little bit of a... You're pulling the corner a little bit. So this shape doesn't have to be very dramatic. Especially if you already made your smile dramatic, you don't really want to do too much with the dimple here. I'm just going to turn it up and move the mouth in a little bit. And that's it. Maybe like give a little upward movement here. Easy peasy. And of course, copy and mirror it. Next, we've got mouth press left and right, which is kind of similar, but without the rotation. So we're just gonna push the mouth upward on either side. I'm noticing a loss of volume here. I have to be careful of that. We might have to go back and check out dimple and smile one more time to make sure there isn't a loss of volume. Okay. Looks good to me. Of course, I copy and mirror it as before. We're on to the last 4 mouth shapes, and then we're doing the eyebrows and the nose and the tongue, and then it's pretty much over. So we're almost there. Bear with me a little longer, and then we get to do the super fun Unity part. For this, make sure you're not in symmetry mode. We already should be out of it, but for this part, also make sure you're out of symmetry mode. We're going to move the lips up and down on all 4 corners. Open the jaw. I'll actually mask it in symmetry mode. And then I'm going to take myself out of symmetry mode. And I'm going to invert the mask. And I'm going to close the jaw. Mouth lower down left. Move all this just a little bit. Small amount of inflation for that weird part on the lip. Just a little bit. Double check the, we could probably cut this in half like this. Maybe not all the way in half. You can edit a shape even when it's not at 100%. And then if you do that though, make a new shape from mix. And then copy the new shape. Mirror the new shape. Okay, that's pretty good, but I'm gonna move the other one in the left a little bit more. So I'm gonna go back to this one. I'm gonna draw this one out a little bit. Okay, copy. And mirror. That's pretty good. Now I might want to like smooth a little bit on either side. This kind of... They don't have to be perfectly symmetrical, but when they're both on, it should look pretty close. Smooth a little bit here. There's a kind of a strange topology where the middle of the lip meets, which is why I've been very lightly using the inflation tool here. And then make sure the movements look good on their own. That looks pretty good to me. Mouth, lower, down, left. Mouth, lower, down, right. And then guess what? We get to do the top side. Control I to invert the mask. Mouth, upper, up, left. This is a fun part of the character to get to do because you get to move the nose a little bit. But you have to be careful because if you overdrive the mouth here, you'll overexpose the teeth and the gums. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Perfect. Let's copy it and reflect it. We'll smooth out a little bit here on both sides, kind of, so it's a little bit smoother. Turn it on and off. Yep, that looks good to me. Change the name of this to Mouth Upper Upright. And that's it for all the lip and mouth shapes. Now we're on to, we still have this many to do. So we've got brow down left, right, brow inner up, brow outer up left and right, then cheek puff, cheek squint, nose sneer, and tongue out. After that, all of the blend shapes are done, and we get to double check our work using Face Motion 3D, and then we'll bring it into Unity. Now this character doesn't have physical eyebrows. They have like, well, it's a water creature, so I guess they just don't have eyebrows. However, if the creature did have eyebrows, I would sculpt with auto masking off and still hide the eyes and everything I don't want to move. So I would sculpt it the same way. I would make sure that the islands of the eyebrows curve and smoosh a little bit, but it all depends on the topology of the eyebrow versus the topology of the rest of the face mesh. So it kind of varies from character to character. With this character, they don't have literal eyebrows, so we're just kind of gonna assume where the eyebrows would be and move the eyebrow space as if they were making those expressions. For brow down left, we're gonna move it mostly down. I'm actually gonna paint a little bit of a mask here on this horn, because I don't want them to move very much. They're connected to the same topology, but it's a horn, so we can't have those moving. That would just be weird. Okay. Yeah, horns don't move. Back to sculpting. Make sure not to lose volume too much. It'll happen a little bit. Oop, I'm in symmetry mode, as I was masking. We're moving down and in here. You want to try to follow the shape of the face as much as possible. If they have a very full face, you can lose a little bit of volume when you go down, but try not to like go through where there will be bones and stuff. Don't give them a sunken in head look. Okay, and we can see what that looks like by turning on the texture. We can maybe make the matte cap lighter. That's pretty good. Eyebrows are very expressive, so you should try really hard to make your eyebrows expressive without losing volume. They also tend to go in a little bit, and you can, if you want to give it a little flair, you can kind of curve or rotate them. For some characters, I do this a little bit, but not all. Like, think about how if you bring both of your eyebrows down in real life, they kind of almost meet at an angle in the middle. And a really stylized character, they might even curl a little bit. But that's a stylistic choice. You kind of have to imagine the eyebrows on this one. I think I didn't hit copy. Yep. And reflect it. Bam. Easy peasy. Hit Alt-H to make sure you're not committing any crimes with the eyes. There, see, he looks so serious. Ooh. Next is brow inner up. For this one, you can use symmetry mode. Unified Expressions separates this into 2 blend shapes on either side, but ARKit has it as 1 blend shape. And remember, we have this horn here, so we have to be mindful of this horn when we're making the shapes. But basically, I would bring both the eyebrows together a little bit and then curve them up. But we should hide the eyes. Yeah, there we go. I have to rename some stuff because I went back. Whoops. Symmetry mode. Bring them in. Turn it on first. Bring them in, and then kind of curve them up. This should make a concerned look. Switching the surface. The horn is making this shape a little complicated for me. Remember, if you accidentally make a face that's too extreme, you can always use the smooth tool to smooth some things, and you can turn down the shape and then use shape from mix. That's pretty good. What I might do is I might hit Alt-M here and just kind of do some smoothing there. We can bring that down a little bit. Okay, it's coming together. There's 2 more brow shapes to make, and then we will do some final checks. Well, then there's the cheek shapes and the tongue shape. For brow outer up left, make sure you're not in symmetry mode from before, but just kind of grab the outside of where the eyebrow would be, way out here to the right, kinda, and just pull it up. Just pull it up, basically. Doesn't have to be big and complicated. I'm probably gonna use shape from mix on this one too. There we go. And then copy it and mirror. Fantastic. Oh, also rename it to the right side. Next is cheek puff. Now, cheek puff is the one where we get to use the inflation tool a lot. And in symmetry mode. Make the cursor a little bigger, but lower the strength. For this one, depending on if you have cheek fluff or not, or what's going on, you may or may not want to use auto masking topology. But basically, we're going to make the cheeks big and round. We're also going to fill out the lips a little bit. When you're puffing your cheeks, your lips are sealed, so the mouth must be very closed. For this character, their mouth is so long that I'm going to kind of puff out the area on top of and below the mouth a little bit. They have to hold their breath because they never learned how to be a whale correctly, I guess. That's why they're making this shape. Okay, now obviously this looks terrible right here in the corner of the mouth. So what do we do about that? I'm probably just going to use the smooth tool. That looks a little better. Yeah. If you're unsure if something looks good or not, try turning off the wireframe, and if it looks plausible with no wireframe, then it's probably good enough. Some of these sharp edges, they might be kind of rough, but it's not too bad. Some mouths are more complicated than others, and you just have to do your best. You can also grab a little bit using topology offset. There we go. That looks a little better. This part can take time if you want to get it right on a big complicated mouth, or you can just kind of puff out the cheeks with the inflation tool and then whatever it looks like, you know, this is good enough. I think that looks fair. Okay. Next is cheek squint. Now, considering that you have smile and eye squint to worry about and many other blend shapes, I recommend making cheek squint really subtle. If you make the cheek squint really intense, it'll overdrive with your other squint and cause some overlapping. Turn off symmetry mode. Open the mouth. Let's mask down here. Close the mouth, turn on the cheek squint blend shape. And the cheeks on this creature are pretty long, so we're just gonna move this whole thing up just a little bit. Alt-M, do a little smooth in there. Don't really want a big blend shape for this. You can make a big blend shape on your character if you want to, but for this character, on that one, I'm gonna keep it really subtle. Next, we have nose sneer left and nose sneer right. Now this one, you can get creative with this one because this is an emote you pretty much have to make on purpose in real life. It's a difficult face to make. But the perfect sync version of this is what I'm going to do. So basically, I'm going to mask down here one more time. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna kind of curl this upward, curl this one downward, and then nose sneer is also a movement of eyebrow down kinda right here. So it comes together. Now, if you're doing a canine character and they snarl, you can pull the vertices up off of the mesh to make it look like they have wrinkles. If you want to give your character wrinkles, you can do that by pulling up on the vertices or using, let's see, one of these. They changed it. They changed all the brushes. But the point is that if you want to add wrinkles, you can pull up on individual vertices. We could just use the grab tool. It would probably look like, kind of like this. But if you have a really smooth character, this might not make sense. Sometimes I do this for people who have canine characters and they want to snarl, you know, they want to have a really angry, wrinkly snarl. I tell them, like, if you make nose sneer with your face in real life, you can have this angry snarl with the wrinkles. There was a build-up brush that was like really good for this in an older version of Blender, but they kind of moved the brushes around. We'll see what this looks like when we reflect and mirror it to both sides. Oh yeah, that looks good. Now let's make it kind of like, so there's some wrinkles there. If you don't have like a lot of quads to deal with here or a lot of like topology, like if the topology is not very dense on your face, you might not be able to pull this look off as much. But you do have the option to make it wrinkly. Angry. You could also make it just smooth if you want. I'm gonna do a couple more edits to this shape, and then we're gonna do the tongue. Hold on. Yeah, no, that's correct. Okay. I thought I accidentally did something twice. Right? Yeah, there we go. That's a pretty good snarl. A snarly, angry face. So you can use nose sneer to make your character look really angry. Oops, I misclicked. I accidentally started up another app. Just ignore that. Okay. The last shape is tongue out. Now, tongue out is not intended to work by itself. It's meant to work on top of jaw open. So when you make the tongue out blend shape, when it's running by itself, when you're editing it, it's gonna poke through the face. But it's meant to only work if you have jaw open. So that's why this picture is so strange. Luckily, most furry characters already have, oops, not jaw open, sorry, tongue out. Most furry characters already have a tongue pose. So let's take a look here. We have to hit Alt-H in order to see it. Tongue out. Now, this one opens the mouth, which would be redundant against our own jaw open, right? It opens the mouth and smile. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to edit mode, and I'm going to use L to select the tongue. And then I'm going to go to my new tongue shape. And I'm going to hit Control V, blend from shape. And then I'm going to choose the original tongue shape on this furry creature. Now they're both on at the same time, they're double driving, but I'll just hit X and run this one only. And it pokes through just like in my references. Now that might be strange, but it'll only be on if jaw open is on. Now it looks a lot better. However, that doesn't really look perfect. So let's do connected only proportional editing mode and move the tongue into a position that makes more sense. Proportional, the editing is making the tongue lose volume. There we go. That's a big tongue. All right, that's every single shape. So now we can test it with Face Motion 3D. Now, Face Motion 3D is a software you'll have to pay for on the iOS side. The way it works is it connects over Wi-Fi to your iPhone or iPad Pro that has Face ID. I run mine on my iPad, but it'll run very similar on most iPhones. I suggest using an iPhone 11 or newer. The faster iPhones will run the program better. The important part is the front-facing camera is depth sensing infrared, and it can detect a human face very, very efficiently. So let's make sure my stuff is plugged. I'm also going to save before I do this. The IP address of my device is very important in here. And you might also have to have Face Motion 3D set to Blender mode. And there we go. I'm noticing a couple small things right away, but overall looks pretty good. The eyebrow down and the blink are double driving each other a little bit. Face Motion 3D will also not do Visemes, so usually when I have a VTuber in a VTuber app, I run Visemes with face tracking because Visemes can be a little bit faster and they make it more expressive. Now it's pretty good, but I'm noticing a couple things I want to have a little bit better. One of the things about Face Motion 3D is that it can move the head and the eyes in Blender. However, it's very picky about bone names, so you have to change the bone names in the app, and sometimes it doesn't even work. I'm gonna cut the recording and see if I can make that work right now, but if you can't, it's not a big deal. It'll only make your face tracking look a little bit more dynamic when you're demoing it. In terms of testing the blend shapes, you don't really need the eyes to move. Okay, I got Face Motion 3D to connect with the head bone. However, the eye bones are of a particular orientation that doesn't make Face Motion 3D happy. However, it'll turn out just fine in Unity. This face tracking project was pretty good, did pretty good. The only thing is that the eyebrow down and the blink are double driving a little bit. So I'm going to look at the data here and see what blend shapes need to be adjusted so this can look a little bit better. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. You can see that if we scroll down to the ARKit shapes, the Face Motion 3D plugin is driving all of these blend shapes. You can look at the little numbers going up and down. It's actually like pretty dang good. It's almost perfect. I just don't like how far the blink comes down with eyebrow down at the same time, I think is the problem. Also might make the frown a little stronger. Let me see here. Mouth, frown. Yeah, see, I am going to frown as hard as I can, and this number will not go all the way up. It'll go, this is me frowning very, very hard. It's difficult to max out a frown for many people, which is why I sometimes make these shapes a little bit more extreme. So I'm going to make the mouth frown a little bit stronger, and I'm gonna adjust some of the eye shapes, and then we'll bring it into Unity. But yeah, this is pretty fun for me. I like testing these in Blender. Since I hooked up the rig to the head with Face Motion 3D, we're gonna reset the pose. So go to pose mode, hit Alt-R on the head, Alt-R on all these just in case. Hide the armature. Go back to sculpt mode. We're gonna see if we can figure out what's going on with some of these shapes. Because I've noticed a couple of anomalies that I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Yeah, okay. I'm going to reduce the impact of the shape on this part of the eye. And I'm also going to delete the other side of it. I might be able to fix it in sculpt mode. Auto masking of the topology. I'm gonna have to mask this part of the eye right here. Yeah, brow down left is a little bit strange. What I do is I'm actually surprised the blink doesn't seem to close the eye all the way on this side. That surprises me. Oh. Oh, I see. The blink actually has an extra part to it. Sometimes if you have a strange thing with a character, you need to look at how it looks in Unity. I'm gonna take a look at this dude, because the blink is more complicated than I realized. Oh, I see. Okay. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. Alright, we're gonna remake the blink a little bit, because I didn't realize what was truly going on. This screen comes forward and makes the crease of the blink in this character, which is something I've never seen before. But that's okay, we can work with that. It looks like it still does it, even with my eyebrow smushing all the way down. I don't think I'm gonna remake the blink actually. I just need to change how the eyebrow works a little bit. This might take a little bit of experimentation. Every character's face is unique. Most characters, their eyelid seamlessly comes together at the end here, but the male Strorka has a unique blink that we're working around a little bit. That's okay. Every character has a unique challenge. Okay. I think that should be good now. Let's try this out in the test mode. We'll have to smooth that out a bit, actually. When in doubt, smooth it out. I am using auto masking now, just FYI. Okay, we'll copy and mirror it. And let's run the simulation. Much better. Yeah, I like that a lot better. Now, a common mistake is sometimes I'll forget to mirror a blend shape. So you want to look for any sides that are overdone. Just make all of the faces you can. I spend a lot of time at the computer making faces. I'm also noticing the gums don't follow the smile that I made as deeply as I want, so I'm gonna have to edit that part of the mouth. So I might nerf the smile a little bit and deepen the frown. Alternatively, I can make it so that jaw open or smile doesn't come up as much in the inside. So here's what I'm gonna do. Sorry, I was having too much fun. We can't be having fun here. No fun. No fun allowed. Back to work. I am almost a perfectionist. I really care about the details. So let's open the jaw and turn on the smile. This character has some really intense gums. So I'm going to go into edit mode. And I'm going to grab it by the vertices here. And we're just going to kind of lower this a little bit with proportional editing on. I might also cheat with the gums a little bit. This is kind of cheating because gums shouldn't really work this way, but I don't really want the mouth to be revealed too much here. This only happens if the jaw is open. Otherwise, they can't see that part of the gums as much. There. That makes it a little less offensive. People are not likely to look that closely at that section of the mouth, but it is less jarring. Let's go ahead and copy that. We have to go to object mode to do that. We'll remove the old smile right and copy smile left and reverse it. There we go. Now let's make the frown a little bit stronger. There's a way to cheat with this too if you want to take shortcuts. You can actually increase the maximum power of the frown instead of doing more sculpting work, and then just kind of turn it up. Then do new shape from mix. Now you have a more powerful frown. We'll get rid of the old frowns. Name it. Copy it. And rename it. And mirror it. Then turn them both on. Epic frown. Let's run another test. Okay, I'm almost ready to call this good enough. I just want to change one more thing. I'm going back to the smile, and I'm going to make the gums a little smoother from a certain angle. And then I'm done. I'm gonna use the smooth tool here, just a little bit. And that's it. That's all I wanted to do right there. Yeah, that's like perfect. Let's copy that. Reverse it. Get rid of the old smile right. Bam! One more test. Oh, look at those wrinkles. Now there is one more thing to do. If you remember, we separated the horns at the beginning so they wouldn't be messed up by mirroring blend shapes. Well, we're gonna put them back on. Reset the pose. Alt A, Alt R. All you gotta do is grab these things first, then hit Shift and left click. The old ones should be kind of red and the new ones should be orange unless you have custom color settings. And then just join. And you can double check that all went through okay, because your original mesh should just say body, like in the beginning. And you can go to pose mode and just make sure that like it's all matched up. And one final test. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty good. And it'll look even better when we add hybrid lip sync to the face tracking, which will be a part of the Unity part of this tutorial. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with the face tracking on this model. I'm ready to start bringing this into Unity. So we've got all the things reconnected and everything. I'm gonna reset the pose and then we're gonna export it. Let's X out all the blend shapes. Turn on the armature and reset the pose. Now, The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to overwrite the FBX in my Unity project so that it goes through with the least amount of work on our part possible to transfer this into a VRM. I've got a method where we try to do as few repetitive steps as possible, kind of. Okay, I think I am satisfied with the face tracking edits. Let's bring this into Unity. First, let's turn on the armature. And then I'm going to reset the pose and turn off all the blend shapes and make sure the tracking is off. So we're just going to X out everything here, grab the armature, and reset it with Alt-R in pose mode. Now, I have a very particular way of making VRMs and VSF files, especially for characters who have an outfit with VRCFury. I've prepared an outfit with VRCFury just to demonstrate this shortcut, and that's why we're going to be taking the character into Unity 2022, making a basic VRM with the outfit on, and then I'm going to be bringing that into Unity 2019 to make the version of the character that will actually be exported to VSeeFace. If you are already a VRM expert, or maybe you have a certain VTuber app that you prefer to use or something, you don't really need this next part of the tutorial. Also, keep in mind that depending on how the original model was made and the scaling options that it has either on export from Blender or in Unity, you may have to export your character differently than I'm going to export this character. So I'll show you what those options look like. I am going to overwrite the character that I have in my VRChat scene. So this is my male Storka. Your male Storka project will probably look a little different. Before I do this, I've got the FBX here. I'm going to control left click drag to make a copy. And this one with male Storka number 1 on it, this is my backup. PC backup. Okay. And then we're gonna overwrite this bad boy here. So I'll just copy the file location. Gonna go back to Blender, File, Export, FBX. Let's see here. Not the Quest version, this one. Now I have several presets because I've had to do lots of different VRChat models with different scaling and stuff. I find that in my experience, most models work with these settings. So I will make those settings really big for you. However, this doesn't work for every VRChat model, and you might have some goofy stuff. So in the original version of the Nova Beast before the update that was very recent, I had these settings for the Nova Beast, for example. Apply scalings all local is the main change here. And sometimes I had this one. So it kind of just depends on what model you're working with. You might have to try some different export settings. You might not be able to overwrite the FBX in your scene, and you might have to do a little bit more work. But I know for the male Storka that we can do this. Basic VRChat, FBX all. It might work with all local, but the way that I am planning to do with this tutorial is with these settings. And I'm going to show you what happens if things go wrong and what to do about it also. So make sure you're only exporting the armature and the mesh. You don't want a bunch of bull crap in there. Make sure your body and your hair were combined from before when we separated it. All that stuff. Double check everything. And also make sure you have a backup just in case you make a mistake. That way you can rename the backup to just mailstorka.fbx and delete the old one, and you can go back to the way everything was. And if you're a little unsure, you can back up your whole Unity project as well. All right, let's do it. Now, nothing will happen in Blender if you've got a fast computer, but in Unity, it'll import. And we know it'll have imported correctly because if we go to body and then blend shapes, all of our blend shapes are here, the ones we made. Something else you want to double check, especially if you're using older versions of VRM like we are for VSeeFace, is to go here and go to Model. Legacy blend shape normals should be on. If you do not have this on, then your model is going to look really, really strange in VSeeFace. So please, at the very beginning, when you import a model, double check that this is on. For newer versions of VRM or other VTuber apps, you might not need this, but I know that for VSeeFace, and it used to be true for VRChat. I'm not sure if VRChat is getting better about this, but for older VRM and VSeeFace stuff, you need legacy blend shape normals. Now, I've noticed that there is an import error, and I know because I rehearsed this whole thing ahead of time, but it's perfect because it's really good practice to show you guys how to fix it. I have Gesture Manager here, and I'm going to go into play mode to make sure that my armature and my character work. So let's go into play mode with Gesture Manager. Oh no, my character has turned into a strange homunculus thing. Oh man. How could this happen? I imported a model from Blender and some scaling issue was incorrect. Dang and geez. Easy fix. Easy fix. Okay, not a big deal. Not a big deal. And I have the UE prefab from before I was using unified expressions. We could just delete that. We don't need that right now. There's an ARKit prefab we can put on for people who make ARKit shapes, but I'll do that in a different tutorial. This is a VTuber tutorial. However, I would say that you just put that prefab on, and then there are some directions in the PDF or some controls you need to set up for gestures and blinking, and in less than 5 minutes it's done. I might do a separate tutorial on that later. Anyways, how do we fix our strange pretzeling? Well, it's easy. You just go here. You'll notice there are some warnings. We can print those to console if we want to, but nobody wants to read all this nonsense. Instead, go to configure. Oh man, that's weird. It's not supposed to do that. Oh, geez Louise. Okay, well, go to pose, reset, and enforce T-pose. Now, I happen to know that this character is also a digigrade capable character, which means that it has a digigrade armature and it uses constraints to emulate a digigrade leg movement in VRChat. Technically speaking, it's possible to do a digigrade setup in VTuber software with constraints. However, the older VRM format doesn't support that, and I haven't figured out how to get it to work in VSeeFace. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to replace the bones here with the digigrade version of the bones. Because as you can see, the plantigrade version is a fake bone. These are just for constraints. They don't actually move the character. But these ones do. So we're gonna plug in the regular bones here. Digi thigh L. Digi, we're gonna do shin. Digi shin L. You have the option of plugging in the base of your toes for VTuber software. However, I find in my experience that sometimes the VTuber apps interpret the position of the toes in a really strange way. So usually I leave toes blank. I don't recommend using the toes. You can make that decision on your own, but I personally don't recommend plugging the toes in. It usually results in something bizarre. Okay, cool. Now we have the real bones in here. I just tried to use a Blender shortcut. So the leg will really move for real. I tried to use a Blender shortcut again. My poor brain. All right, now we hit done. Fantastic. And if we run play again, we know that the gesture manager And our armature and everything works normal because when we hit gesture manager during play mode, our character has a normal standing animation and stuff. Fantastic. Let's see. Okay. Everything works. I think I deleted the clothes prefab. I might have to reapply it. Yeah, okay. I'll link the clothes that I used for this tutorial in the description of the video also. I just wanted to have clothing because getting clothing to work in VRM is also a challenge, and I wanted to show that challenge in this tutorial video. It was meant to be comprehensive. There we go. So the clothing is on, and the socks have a couple variants. What we need to do for this is have them on by default and make an in-editor test copy. So let's do that first and see what the in-editor test copy is. Go to Tools, VRCFury, build an editor test copy. Okay, the editor test copy has the clothes off by default, so I'll have to figure out how to turn that on. Or I can just turn them on like this. And I think this will work. So now, if you manipulate the armature, not that armature, there we go. That way we know the clothes are on. Kind of want to test that against the regular one. Versus the non-in-editor test, it shouldn't move. Yeah, see how the clothes don't follow the leg? So my editor test copy, it follows the leg. If you had tried to do this without making an editor test copy, your clothes would not have been bound to your VRM. So the other thing that's really important when you're making a VRM is it has to be zeroed out in its coordinates. So position 0, rotation 0, etc., etc. You want it in the middle, otherwise you might have some shenanigans in your VTuber app later. Now we need to import the VRM package. Luckily, I have... let's see here. I have to open it up, actually. Oh yeah, here we go. For this, we're going to use UniVRM 0.115. This is the only thing you need to import right now. So I'm just going to double-click this and bring it in. Just hit yes to everything. Hopefully, if you already have a VRM package in your project and you try to import a different VRM package, you're going to have severe errors. So if you have a VRM entanglement, delete the UniGLTF folder, VRM folder, and VRM shader folders and import it from scratch. Okay, now that that's done, it looks like there might be a shader error, but as long as we can hit the play button, then it's fine. We can just ignore errors as long as the play button works. Now we get to make our VRM base, which we will be importing to an older version of Unity and editing later. So we're going to call this Male Strorka base 1. You don't really have to do anything to it. If you want to, you can force it to T-pose. This will make the thumbs look a little bit better if you use a leap motion device. However, thumbs are very difficult to pose correctly for VTubers, and especially in VSeeFace, the thumbs can come through a little weird. If you want the thumbs to work really good, you might have to re-rig them depending on the model. Then we're going to export. we're going to make a new folder in my Unity project called, I'm just going to call it Neo Stuff. And then I'm going to make a folder called Bases. And you want to put this in a folder because it's going to make a bunch of other folders and assets. And you want to do this inside of the same project you're exporting from. And hit save. And the first time you do this, it may take a long time. All right. Let's go back to assets, Neo Stuff, bases. You should see a prefab here. This is the beginning of our VRM. Now their shading is going to be a little strange. We'll fix that later. But for now, this is exactly what we need. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to make a prefab of the in-editor test copy. Then we're going to right-click on this prefab, and we're going to export a package. This is all stuff we're going to need to match the shading in the other version of the project. You only need, basically the only part of this we really care about is the model, the textures, and the materials. Everything else doesn't really matter. This is how we're going to make it look the same with the same Poyomi shading and the effects and everything in the 2019 version of the project. Okay. Now that we have this package, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to open this in Explorer. This will be useful later. I have a 2019 project. Actually, I might make a new 2019 project so I can show you guys this from scratch. Create new project. Let's see here. We'll go back a little bit. Call this tutorial 2019 male Strorka project. Select folder. You can name these whatever you want. Just make sure you choose 2019 avatar project and hit create project. Okay, and for this, you want to leave all this blank. Do not import VRCFury. You might want to import Poyomi. Actually, I'm going to do that. Import Poyomi if you have it in Creator Companion. If you don't have it in Creator Companion, import whatever shader it is you use for your avatar. It is possible that your shader relies on Unity 2022. If that happens, you might have to use an older version of the shader or a different shader. And then close this project. We're not going to use that one. Open the project. This will take a minute depending on your computer and what hard drive you have Unity installed on and where your Unity projects are. Okay, Unity finally finished loading, but guess what? We have to import some more packages. So we need this. We need UniVRM 0.99. Now we need the VSF SDK. I suggest getting the latest version. And let's see here. We'll also need VRM Auto Setup and Pumpkin's Avatar Tools. Maybe I should put all of these in one singular package. That would make too much sense. Okay, finally imported most of the packages. Let's make a folder. Faces. Then we get to go and take this from the 2022 project. Just hit Control A. Minus these two things. We'll bring those in later. And throw it right in here. That'll take a few minutes or just a moment. Finally, we're going to import that one package that'll give us the materials and the shaders that we need to make the character look like it did in VRChat. Let's see here. I think I had it somewhere. Here it is. Okay. Now is when things get interesting. I think that's basically everything. Here's our VRM base. And here's the version with all of our shading on it. We will also need to reveal the hoodie. Unless they're like not... Oh, well, that's okay. We don't need the materials for that stuff. I think it's because of the way I imported the prefab. It's because I don't have VRCFury. But we'll just change the materials. Or we can copy the materials from the old project. Add-ons. Yeah, the materials are missing. We'll just bring them over. So I've got the cozy clothes here. And we'll just take the cozy clothes. We'll just copy the whole add-ons folder. Add-ons. Like this. Wait, actually, I want to copy it, not move. Copy. There we go. Then I can plug in these materials manually. Much better. And for the body, what we'll do is we'll use Pumpkin's tools. We'll put our VRM here and the editor test copy here. Select none and then skin mesh renders materials only. Copy selected. Ooh, I have to redo the hoodie because as a blank material. Just plug those in manually. Sometimes outfit stuff gets kind of silly. I also do not know what that is. The mid-tail fin. Huh. Oh, I see. It must have gotten distorted somehow. That's weird. What is that? That only happens to the VRM. It's supposed to be hidden? I don't know what that is, but we can just turn it off. It doesn't seem like it is necessary. Okay, now we've got our character and they're in the hoodie. I'm guessing the ears just poke through the hoodie. We can double check that with Gesture Manager. Or not. I'm pretty sure they just poke through. Okay, we have a few more steps to ensure our character works. First of all, we're going to... we have to plug in the blend shape proxy, and we have to take a screenshot. Let's do the screenshot first. We'll take the camera, and we'll just turn this around. Perfect. Save that anywhere in your project. Should have automatically gone here. Oh, I saved it to a different folder. Because I've got multiple projects going on, it's a little confusing. Here we go. There. This will be the picture that shows up when you choose the character in your VTuber app. Next, we need a program called VRM Auto Setup Shape Keys. Normally, you would have to go into the blend shape clip proxy and do this by hand. It looks like this. You would create all 52 blend shape clips, which is like a kind of like an animation or a combination of blend shapes that are set to trigger under certain conditions or with hotkeys. And you'd have to type all 52 of them manually with their correct name into this component. So like eye, up, or smile, mouth, smile, left, etc., etc. You'd have to do that 52 times plus the visemes. But we don't have to do that because we named all of our shape keys correctly, and Tracer made this tool that turns this into a piece of cake. So tools, VRM, auto setup shape keys. Put the body here. It'll say avatar prefab, but just put the body here. Make sure it's on ARKit mode. It has other modes, but just use ARKit mode. If your visemes have the normal VRChat names, it'll also put the complete viseme blend shape clips in here too, which helps VSeeFace make your character look a little more expressive. Also, we're gonna name them, so we'll just call this tutorial. We'll call it male Shorka or male ARKit. Yeah, Don't want to make it too long. Set a save location. I like to make a folder for this. So I call the folder proxies. Bam. And then we just set up the data. This would have taken much longer if we had to do it by hand. Okay. Now we need that proxy and we have to plug it into this component. Luckily, it's easy to find since we named it male ARKit. And there. Technically, this avatar would work if we exported it, but we're not done yet. We need to give it some controls and some physics. So I'm gonna make a, we're gonna give it some spring bones. Also gonna move this camera out of the way. We don't need it anymore. Put it way over here. I think I mostly just want to do spring bones for the ears. In the future, I might add more for myself, but just for the tutorial, I'm going to keep it simple. Do 4 here. And we'll do the ears of the character. Luckily, you can just search for them. Just make sure you're selecting the right character. You can double check by left clicking one of these to make sure it's the correct character in the scene. So you'll notice the first 3 of these is actually on my VRM, whereas the last one is a mistake and it's on the other character. So we need upper ear R. There we go, that's correct. And if we hit the play, actually I'm gonna hit save. I'm gonna save this. Okay, now I hit the play button. Okay, now we grab the character at the hierarchy, we can move him around and see he's got some basic ear physics. Now, if you want to, you can add more physics to the tail or the fins or whatever else your heart desires. But I'm just gonna leave it at the ear physics for the sake of brevity of this video. Adding the spring bones is not exactly rocket science. There's a couple more things I want to show you guys. We're going to add a few animations to toggle the clothes, and then it'll be done. So we'll need to go back to the blend shape proxy, which is right here. You'll notice that it's filled out with all of our blend shapes we made. All these blend shape clips and the visemes are filled out, but we're going to make 2 blend shape clips to toggle the clothes. We're going to toggle the hoodie off, and we're gonna toggle the socks, or the warmers, socks off. Oh, I spelled hoodie off weird. Maybe I can fix that. Will it let me? Maybe. We'll just delete that one. The blend shape clip making device is kind of strange. It's very finicky, and you can have critical errors if you do something wrong with the blend shape clips, which will not let you export the character. We'll deal with that if that happens. You can actually name toggles whatever you want, but I named them something obvious for the sake of simplicity. Okay, now we need to go and make the animations. So hoodie here. We're gonna go to animation, create, hoodie off. And you can make a folder for animations if you want to, but I just named them hoodie off and I specify it's for VSeeFace so I don't get confused later, because VSeeFace animations are really simple. Record and disable the hoodie. That's it. Now you're an animator. All right, stop the recording. Let's make another one called Socks Off. Record. Select the socks. Disable them in the inspector. You're a pro animator now. You have made the male naked. Okay. That's pretty much it. Now we just go back to the root of the hierarchy of the object of the character, and we put in 2 of these bad boys, and you scroll down to the blend shape clip for the respective animation. So hoodie off, socks off. Then we just plug in our animation. Luckily, I named them with VSF, so I can just search for VSF and find the exact animation that I need. Okay, I suggest saving here. Now there is a high possibility of strange export errors and stuff, so we'll get there. We'll cross that bridge if that happens. But for now, I'm going to start exporting the character and see where we get. I have a place in my documents for characters. Tutorial male Storka. B1A. Now, the first time you do one of these exports, it's going to take a pretty long time, probably, depending on your setup. But after the first time, it tends to go faster. So if you need to make a lot of different versions, don't worry, it won't. It kind of caches the information, and it'll go faster after the first time. Export complete on the first try. All right, let's see the fruits of our labor. I'm going to bring up VSeeFace. Now, these VSF avatars work in Vnyan also, I believe, and maybe some other VTuber apps. I'm going to hit Add Avatar. Well, it's still loading. I'm a little impatient. I have my microphone selected. If you are an ARKit user, you don't need a camera selected because we're going to connect to iPhone or iPad. Hit Add Avatar. I've got the tutorial Milstorka right here. And it has the same picture. I really hope this works the first try. Hey, that's pretty good. Do I even have hands? Oh, I got my hands. Now you'll notice the thumbs are a little twisted. That's because when people make armature for thumbs, they're a little different for VRChat than for VTubers. That takes a lot of manual finagling around with every different character to get 100% correct, but you can change the angle and the rotation of the thumb in the Unity scene or in the FBX rig until it looks right in VSeeFace, but it is a challenge of this VTuber stuff. Let's see if we can disable the hoodie. I'll just set this to the 5, 6. Fantastic. Cool. So the face tracking, it looks pretty good. Wow, wow, wow. You can change the smoothing settings. Actually, that's just movement. Let's see here. There's some other settings we should look at while we're in here. I have blend shape smoothing really, really low because I have a high-powered device, but if you have worse lighting or maybe a different device, you might want to turn this up. I think by default it's 0. So when you double-click a setting in VSeeFace, it changes it to its default value. Blah, blah, blah. You can make Visemes a lot faster by reducing the lip sync smoothing. If your eyes are not following... Yeah, okay. So this determines how far my eyes move. They follow... Now, I don't really have like pupils, but hopefully you guys get the idea. The male Storka doesn't have pupils, but my design has like a little bit, kind of. The gaze strength determines how far the eye will roll or twist or rotate. And the gaze sensitivity determines how fast, kind of. I usually have to turn this up on most of my characters. You can change the focal length, which can make you look pretty silly. Auto blink, if you have a hard time with your blink, you can turn that on. I don't really recommend it. You can turn this on and off. A lot of these things are kind of just like whatever you feel looks best with your character. You can change the arm angle, so my left hand is tracked by leap motion and my right hand is not tracked, and you can change the default arm angle that you have. Shoulder stiffness. I don't actually know what shoulder stiffness does. There's one more important setting in here, and that is hybrid lip sync. So I have my my ARKit is hooked up here with the IP address, and if you've never used it before, this checkbox expands all the settings. So you want to look for the one that says Eye Facial Mocap, Face Motion Mocap 3D, Face Motion 3D, VTube Studio, whatever. Then you click this, and you put in the IP address of your iOS device on the Wi-Fi. And then you can toggle all the different things you want to work. So usually you want receive facial features, head movement, and gaze on, but you might have a special use case where you want one of these things off, or maybe you have multiple tracking solutions and you're using like VMC receiver or something to connect them all. I usually use hybrid lip sync, but you can turn it off, and then there is no lip sync. It's just face tracking, which in my opinion isn't as good. I think the characters are more expressive with hybrid lip sync. I like both, and I like it when they add on top of each other. You can also change it so that it only opens the mouth to one source. So when this happens, your lips and your mouth will not be face tracked if you are making noise. Which, in my opinion, doesn't really look as good. I like having hybrid on, but it depends. It's a kind of a preference thing. You can also turn on avatar locomotion, and there's a bunch of other stuff you can do that kind of go beyond the scope of this video. But that's pretty much the gist of it. If I zoom out, you'll see what the avatar locomotion actually does. If I move around, I'll step. Yeah. Woo! And that's basically everything. We'll just turn that off. Now there's more advanced things you can do. For example, you can make Unity animations that trigger with blend shape clips that make your ears go up and down or backward and forward or rotate, depending on if you're smiling or frowning or any of those face tracking triggers. Or you can just make blend shapes that move the ears a little bit too. I like the secondary thing because it's more universal to like different apps, whereas VSF or Unity animations sometimes don't work in every environment. Plus, it's easier to make blend shapes than it is to make animations, in my opinion, especially if you're making the animations in Unity instead of with Bones and Blender. But that's all kind of a matter of preference. You go a little extra. But yeah, that's basically everything. Now, if you want to get really cool, okay, I'll show you one more thing. Let me see if I can do it here. There we go. Okay. You can use Wallpaper Engine if you're really proud of your avatar work, or you just want to have a VTuber background. You can use Wallpaper Engine to show off your work. That's how I show off my work sometimes. Or I just show off the Blender demo inside of Blender with Face Motion 3D. But this looks nice. And that's it. That's the whole tutorial. Unity and Blender. I was trying to be as comprehensive as possible. Sorry if I kind of dragged that out. Hopefully that helps out a lot of people. I gave very specific directions. All of the resources will be in the description, and there will be timestamps. Thank you to my Patreons. If you have questions, feel free to join my community and I can try to clarify things. Just keep in mind that if you do things different, you might get a different result. There's lots of different ways to come out with a VRM. You can even make a VRM just from Blender. There are Blender plugins that let you do the whole VRM inside of just Blender, for example. Or if you use Warudo, you can make a .warudo avatar. Or if you use, Vnyan or VSeeFace, every different little VTuber app can sometimes have its own avatar format that's a little different than VRM. So there's a lot of different ways to do things, but the way that I like to do the blend shapes, I hope you guys got a lot of value out of that. Thank you. I stream Wednesday through Sunday and sometimes on Tuesdays. And I do a lot of VTuber stuff. I do a lot of VRChat stuff. I do a lot of model edits. If you guys want more tutorials, let me know in the comments. I've also considered making smaller sections of just certain things, like maybe a tutorial about Shape Keys Manager or Shape Keys Pro, or just some of the tricks I do in Unity and Blender, like just maybe shorter videos, tutorials of that stuff. I plan on doing a tutorial on how to rig and edit and sculpt plus-sized furry characters for people who are enthusiastic about that stuff or who have bigger characters. All kinds of things. And we have a Discord community. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you to my loyal subscribers and my patrons and my supporters for keeping the roof over my head and helping me come out with these videos. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.